Al-Qaeda in Iraq not only targets women and children, but as we are witnessing in recent months, they also prey on their innocents and abuse them as suicide bombers. On Sunday, a young boy whose family is from a tribe that is linked to Al-Qaeda in Iraq walked into a gathering and detonated a bomb inside a box of candy.
Broadcasting from the heart of Baghdad's Green Zone, the well-oiled US publicity machine offers the world's media daily bulletins. Today, the news has been all about reconciliation and an improving security situation.
This step is a helpful one to the Iraqi people, to all Iraqi people. Shukran jazilan. Shukran jazilan and masalama. Thank you, everybody.
This is where the military briefings are held each day in Baghdad, but even though Iraq's a huge story, it's an information abyss because there's no way for me as a Western reporter to go and check and verify the information I'm given here. In essence, being embedded or military briefings are a form of information control that present what the military want you to hear. But what can be verified is America's claim that car bombs and suicide attacks have been halved in the last year. This has coincided with a flood of new troops being introduced on the ground, President Bush's so-called surge. These are the fresh new faces of the surge, a military police patrol who are learning the ropes, along with a couple of Iraqi recruits. They've chosen this area because it's unlikely they'll meet hostile fire here.
6 months ago, this was unheard of. Yeah. Just walking patrol, checking out the area, seeing if the community's doing okay, you know. Some of these people coming up right now, you know, just chilling, relaxing, enjoying the mood, not being afraid for their lives.
Military casualties have been gradually declining in the last 6 months, and these officers are determined that it'll stay that way.
My whole goal, to get all my soldiers home. That's all my goal is. No promotions, no nothing, no awards. Take all these soldiers here, bring them all home in one piece. Everything else is just icing on the cake.
So far in this war, the United States has lost nearly 4,000 troops, but the human cost for Iraqis has been considerably greater. And that's a highly disputed number. Some of the Iraqi dead were undoubtedly insurgents. Many were not. Nearly every Iraqi I've met has lost a close friend or family member. And fearing yet more violence, they've been fleeing the country in huge numbers. So many of the people that I knew and worked with here, and whose families I saw growing up, are no longer in Baghdad. It's been far too dangerous for them to remain, and they've gone into exile. And even meeting ordinary Iraqis here outside of the Green Zone has been really, really difficult. People are so afraid to speak and be seen filming with a Western TV crew. So I've got to travel outside of Iraq to neighboring countries to meet a lot of my old friends. But I won't be sorry to see the back of those flak jackets. Nearly 5 million Iraqis have fled their homes, many to neighboring Arab states. That's not surprising. Those who have attempted to find refuge in the West, including Britain, have had little joy. This is At-Tamf, the busiest border crossing between Syria and Iraq. Today, most of the traffic is commercial, but Syria has accepted more Iraqi refugees than any other country in the world. So many, its infrastructure is under considerable pressure. With 1.5 million Iraqi exiles already here, the Syrian authorities feel that the country is just finding it ever harder to cope. And as a result, they've imposed visa restrictions. Now, what that means is that whereas once this border post was dealing with tens of thousands of Iraqis coming into the country a day, it's now down to a handful. After absorbing so many, the Syrian authorities feel they have fulfilled their humanitarian commitments. They now want refugees to return to their homes in Iraq, but uncertainty and fear mean that few are willing to go back. Many of those who stay arrive at a UNHCR center for refugees in Damascus. Up to 1,000 a day come here for food, financial support and, if they're really lucky, asylum in another country. Just to give you an idea of where the Iraqi refugee crisis ranks in the world, this registration center is the largest run by the UNHCR in the world. And even then, it's only dealing with 1/10 of the entire Iraqi refugee population in Syria. Under Saddam, people's basic needs were met by the state. Few here have been in such need before. This is a very middle-class refugee crisis. Many were doctors, bureaucrats, shop owners. But since the invasion, they've all experienced violence and suffered appalling personal traumas. Everyone here has a story, and they all have to be recorded before the aid workers can decide how to help them. Their testimonies represent the most detailed oral history of the Iraqi people over the last 5 years.
دمرونا تدمير كامل يعني حياتنا يعني صارت عذاب
يعني اعتقلوني أكثر من 5-6 مرات
استشهد على يد القوات الأمريكية بنتيجة إطلاق النار الخطأ في عام
ويعني كانت الأمريكان يوميا مداهمة على منطقة مالتنا.
بعدها خطف ابني من باب يعني لما راح للدراسة، بالإضافة إلى أنه بسبب ابني صارت عندي جلطة دماغية، أرادوا من عندنا فدية $10,000.
All these people want is the Iraqi prisoners free. They don't want to kill me. They could have killed me a week, 2, 3 weeks ago, whenever.
Think of kidnappings in Iraq, and names like Ken Bigley, Margaret Hassan, Norman Kember, and more recently Peter Moore come to mind.
I miss my family very much.
But the number of Western hostages is tiny compared to the ordinary Iraqis who have been abducted and held against their will. Most were seized purely for financial gain, but even if the ransom was paid, only a few survived. I'd learned that a close friend of mine from Baghdad had been taken hostage and had lived to tell the story. I wanted to hear it.
My God. Hi, Rageh. Hi, my brother. We come to you.
For both of us, it was an emotional reunion.
So lovely. Thank you, my God. I see you again.
I'm so happy to see you. I was
come to you. This after as many years ago. This is my life. Outside my house, outside my country.
I can't tell you my friend's name. That would make it easier for his tormentors to track him down. After I left Baghdad, he'd worked with other foreign journalists, until one day in the summer of 2005, when masked men seized him on his way to work.
They laid me on my stomach, put their feet on my neck and pointed a Kalashnikov at me. All the time they were abusing me. You're a collaborator, you're this, you're that. Words so hurtful I'm not going to repeat them. I didn't say anything at all. I couldn't see anything. My eyes were covered and my hands tied. Then they uncovered my eyes. I could see an Iraqi man, around 40 years old. One stood grabbing him by his head, and the other two were holding him even though he was tied up. There was a knife, but it was more like a sword. It seemed to be sharp for slaughtering. And there was blood. I could see the blood everywhere. It seems they had just slaughtered someone. There was also a younger man there. It was as if I was seeing my son in front of me. They started slaughtering him, and I tried to close my eyes, and one of them punched me hard on my mouth, put a gun to my head, and said, "If you don't open your eyes, I'll blow your brains out. You have to watch. If you don't watch, I'll kill you." One of them opened my eyes like this. I said, "Trust me, I can't keep them open." So he took me like this and opened my eyes.